So this is a newer people topic, or this is a nice topic for newer people. So it's 6 habits that destroy your peace and sanity. That's a nice way to describe one of the verses from Nectar of Instruction. Shadbir Bhaktir Vinashati. You know that verse? Shadbir Bhaktir Vinashati. There's 6 items that destroy bhakti. Shadbir Bhaktir Vinashati from Nectar of Instruction. So this is discussing that topic for new people. But you're not new people, so new people, please come. Okay. Based on the teachings of the great sage, Srila Rupa Goswami. Could we make it square so people over there can also see? There? Okay, great. I hope you have good eyesight, because the screen's not so large. But it's okay. So, who is Rupa Goswami? This is part of the introduction. He's one of these 6 men pictured here. The Goswamis of Vrindavan are principal associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So everybody here knows who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but newer audience I would have to explain. And the 2 in the center, they're brothers, Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. And then the others, one of them is their nephew, Jiva Goswami, and then there's 3 more. Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami. And they followed in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, receiving 2, especially Rupa and Sanatan, extensively receiving instructions from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the science of bhakti. And Lord Chaitanya instructed them to expand what he directly taught them in the form of written teachings, which we're living by, the writings of Rupa and Sanatan, and the further commentaries written by the other followers of the 6 Goswamis, including Gopal Bhatta Goswami and Jiva Goswami. Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, interestingly, he didn't write any, there's nothing known that he wrote. Raghunath Das Goswami did write some writings, and they weren't specifically commentaries, they weren't exhaustive and extensive writings like that, but they were in the line of the same teachings that Lord Chaitanya had given to Rupa and Sanatan. And he looked up to Rupa Goswami in a very special way, as did all of the 6 Goswamis. Here's a nice painting indicating the writing on the one side. Nana Shastra Vicharanai Kanipuno Saddharma Sangstapako. One, Sanatana Goswami is studying the revealed scriptures extensively for the purpose of establishing eternal religious principles. And Rupa Goswami is writing. Of course, there wasn't writing paper like it shows here, but that's okay. He was writing. And from Chaitanya Charitamrita, we also find this artist illustration of the tree of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's the main trunk, and there's principal branches, and from those branches there's sub-branches, and the painting also shows many of the fruits that came from those branches, and people gathering and picking the fruits, the fruit of love of God, which the gardener, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was the tree and the gardener, both, taking the fruits of love of God and distributing very, very liberally. Here's a nice little illustration of fruits from a fruit tree, pretty abundant apples on an apple tree. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he very much loved the sharing in ecstatic ways, the sharing of the teachings of love for Krishna, and he empowered others. This is a nice quote from that same Chaitanya Charitamrita. Before the creation of this cosmic manifestation, the Lord enlightened the heart of Lord Brahma with the details of the creation and manifested the Vedic knowledge in exactly the same way. The Lord, being anxious to revive the Vrindavan pastimes of Lord Krishna, impregnated the heart of Rupa Goswami with spiritual potency. By this potency, Srila Rupa Goswami could revive the activities of Krishna in Vrindavan. Activities almost lost to memory. In this way, he spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world. And there's several other verses like this. They're very explicit. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms that he empowered Rupa Goswami in a very special way. One of the celebrated pastimes, it's told twice, once in Madhya Lila, then again in Antya Lila. This celebrated event where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you're all experienced devotees, so you know this pastime. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, during the kirtan before Lord Jagannath, was heard to recite a particular verse again and again and again. And it sounded to people like a romantic love song between a young girl and a young boy, something that today might appear in Bollywood, or something popular, and a love story. And people didn't really understand it. They didn't ask him what were you saying and why, but Rupa Goswami understood it right away. And in his understanding, both verses are found in the Padyavali, and both verses are found in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Padyavali written by Rupa Goswami, Chaitanya Charitamrita written by Krishna Das Kaviraj later. In other words, the verses were well known. The verses were well known. And Rupa Goswami wrote a companion verse that explained it. And the companion verse was very clear. It was Radharani wishing to again be with Krishna in Vrindavan, along the banks of the Reva, underneath the Betasi tree, etc., with her beloved. It was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expressing the love of Radha for Krishna in the mood of separation from Krishna. That was Mahaprabhu's ecstasy. So he wrote it on a leaf, and he went to take his midday bath. He put the leaf tucked in the grass roof of his hut, pictured here. And in the background, you see there's the dome of the Jagannath temple. And while he was gone, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to pay him a visit. And when he came to visit him, Rupa Goswami wasn't there, but that leaf was stuck in the roof. And so he took the leaf and read what was on the leaf. And it's described like this. Lord Chaitanya was astonished reading it. And when Rupa Goswami came, we see Rupa Goswami now paying his obeisances. He read this verse to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's assistant, Swarup Damodar. In Swarup Damodar, he asked him, how did he understand my mind? No one understands my mind. Special sound effects. No one understands my mind, but Rupa Goswami understands my mind. So how is this possible? And Swarup Damodar said, by inference, I can understand because he's understood your mind, but you didn't reveal your mind to him directly. You've empowered him to understand you. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirmed, yes, I empowered him. And I saw in him a fit candidate to receive all of my teachings, and I bestowed upon him my transcendental potency. Now you should also give him instructions, in particular, instruct him in transcendental mellows. So the instructions that Rupa Goswami wrote were the heart and the mind of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he was empowered to receive that, to understand that, to express it in a written form, and most people didn't understand. He was a very special person, directly empowered by Lord Chaitanya to perform this very important service, because here we are today able to understand something that otherwise how would we understand? And to whatever degree we might understand, it's by the mercy of Rupa Goswami. This is a nice statement by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. In 1933, at Srila Prabhupada's initiation, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati instructed him to study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the law book of devotional service. When leaving this world in 1937, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati told his disciples, I advise you all to preach the teachings of Rupa Raghunath with all energy and resources. Our ultimate goal should be to become the dust of the lotus feet of Sri Sanatan, Sri Rupa, and Raghunath Goswamis. This is Prabhupada speaking, instructions that Bhaktisiddhanta gave him. And not only Bhaktisiddhanta gave him these particular instructions, but many of you know, newer people may not know, but they're not here yet. Srila Prabhupada, by divine arrangement, was given the residence of the two little rooms at the Radha Damodar temple, looking out the window from one of the places where he would have his meals. Here it shows him writing, but he would look out the window, and there was the samadhi of Rupa Goswami. Prabhupada would say, this is the most sacred place in the universe. In any case, he was feeling not qualified, as a great soul will feel not qualified, to do the service that Bhaktisiddhanta had given him. Take the teachings of Rupa Goswami to all over the world, English-speaking parts of the world in particular, and make people fortunate by doing this. You feeling not qualified. Very, very great service. There's many different accounts, but one of these is Prabhupada revealed that Rupa Goswami paid him a visit. There's different accounts. But here we see Rupa Goswami came before Prabhupada. It is said that these great personalities, if they so desire, they can reveal themselves to worldly people or people through time and space. They can make themselves visible and communicate. You've heard this before, right? We don't have any new people here yet. So here's what Rupa Goswami said to Srila Prabhupada, Maharaj, don't worry about anything. Go ahead and travel to the West and preach. Just preach the message of Chaitanya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the chanting of the Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, you'll be successful. I guarantee, because I will be right with you all the time. How'd you like to have Rupa Goswami tell you that? I'll be right with you all the time. Now, just to confirm, next is the beginning of these 6 principles of what destroys bhakti, Shadbir Bhakti Vinashati. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote something similar. Even some of our experienced devotees may not know this. He writes it at the end of one of the final books that Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote, named Bhagavat Arkamarichimala. Bhagavat Arkamarichimala is just a collection of verses from the Bhagavad, where, according to topic, he takes a topic and makes a short statement about the topic, and then has a collection of verses that illuminate that particular topic. So the index at the front is topic by topic by topic, and the verses that illuminate that topic. And it's a long list of topics. And that's what the book is. Bhagavat Arka Marichimala. And at the end, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote that normally things like this should not be revealed, but I feel obliged, and he makes mention of his Diksha Guru, who was not his principal guru, but he mentions his Diksha Guru because it's etiquette to do so, that by the mercy of Bipin Bihari, I received a visit from Swarup Damodar. And Swarup Damodar instructed me to write this book. And along with instructing me to write this book, he instructed me on the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam elaborately, so that's included in this book. It's just another, how elevated was Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as how elevated was Srila Prabhupada to receive the personal darshan of someone who's physically not in this world anymore, but they can make themselves present if they so desire. So whether we can see them or not, they certainly can give mercy. This is an important Gaudiya Vaishnava principle. We're going to be hearing one of the verses in this short work by Rupa Goswami, the Nectar of Instruction, or Nectar of Instruction. It's one of the 11 instructions in Nectar of Instruction. But so it's instruction that may seem remote, but it really helps if you understand it's not so remote. Although time and space separates, Rupa Goswami is capable of speaking to us. He's capable of delivering us. He's capable of giving his mercy. A lot depends on how much we want that association and that mercy. And it's the same with the whole of the bhakti process. By that I mean the same understanding, that Krishna is not different than his name. So when we're chanting and we're engaging in devotional service, it's the direct connection with the name, the person, and a direct connection with Krishna when we're engaging in devotional service. It's direct connection with Krishna. And we're most of us at least are not so spiritually elevated that we can realize that. It's nice sounding and it's encouraging, and to the degree that we immerse ourselves in the hearing process, we can feel that connection, and we can be in the direct presence of Krishna in the form of his holy name, and to differing degrees, according to our capacity, have some realization. So this, what I'm saying here is, these teachings of Rupa Goswami, they're realized, taken directly from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, some of you know how, this is a nice understanding. Some of you know how Nectar of Instruction ends. The final verses of Nectar of Instruction, very elevated verses, speaking about the exaltedness of Radharani and specifically Radhakund in this same Nectar of Instruction. Now this is preliminary, these verses that we're going to be discussing, this verse that we're going to be discussing. It's in the earlier stages, they're principles, fundamental principles of things to avoid because they destroy bhakti. But there's this nice description that Rupa Goswami, when he was visiting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, this is recorded in the diary of his personal servant, Govinda Das, that one evening when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the mood of ecstasy, of love for Krishna, he was walking along the beach in Jagannath Puri, and he deeply entered into a mood that the beach was, or the river, the ocean was the river Jamuna, and the sand dunes that he saw by the side, they were the hills in Govardhan. And he entered very deeply into a mood of transcendental ecstasy. And when he came to partly external consciousness, he began speaking his heart. Rupa Goswami was there, and according to this diary or little history of this particular event, from this exchange with the devotees, Rupa Goswami wrote Nectar of Instruction. In other words, Nectar of Instruction is a capsulization of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstasy. And we're fortunate to get the capsulization of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstasy. Now, if this was just totally a new class, I wouldn't say all these things. But I'm embellishing. I'm expressing appreciation for how fortunate we are, and recognizing that good fortune. Let us hear carefully. The first of the 6 items that destroy happiness and peace of mind is atyahara, or overaccumulation. And the commentary speaks of the overaccumulation is in 3 categories. One of those 3 categories is things. If we accumulate more material stuff than we require, that's in the atyahara. Having what you need, that's fine. Having more than what you need, that's detrimental to bhakti. And it's common in the world, in the affluent world in particular, that people have more than what they need. There's a devotee, a disciple of Tamal Krishna Maharaj I know, whose name is Hladini Shakti Das. Hladini Shakti Das, very nice devotee, and he knew he had this tendency to overaccumulate stuff. And he was living in the ashram, so I remember it was like once a year, around Gaur Purnima time was the time that he selected. He took all of his belongings and spread them out in a room. Then he walked around the room, around his stuff, and considered what could he do without. What did he need, and what could he do without? And then he selected out the things he didn't need, and then he gave them away. And then he put his stuff back, and then he had what he needed. But he knew he had an overaccumulation tendency. In the course of the next year, he would accumulate more than what he needed. So every year, it was kind of like a ritual. It was nice. It was a nice example to get rid of things that he didn't need. Now, this is America where people have lots of stuff they don't need, and what do they do with the stuff they don't need? They keep it around anyways, or they rent a place outside. It's all over the place. Storage places, because their house isn't big enough, they have to get another storage place besides their house and store stuff they don't need, just in case a rainy day and they need some stuff. I mean, so that's being a little sarcastic, but it's a fact that it's detrimental to bhakti. So what is it that one needs? That's a good question. Many of you know another teaching directly from Nectar of Devotion about something that addresses what you need. I mean, need. So, anasaktasya vishayan, yatarham upayunjitaha. What's the rest? Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. You know the verse? Gandharvika, you know the verse? You know the verse? Anasaktasya vishayan? Okay. Anasaktasya vishayan. Asakti means it's a stage of bhakti, right? It's a stage of attachment. And you put the prefix a in front of it is without. Anasaktasya. And vishayan, vishaya means sense enjoyment. Vishaya means sense enjoyment. Without attachment to sense enjoyment, anasaktasya vishayan, the thing can be accepted, but when you do accept them, besides it's not too much, it's accepted without the intention of accepting for sense gratification. Anasaktasya vishayan. Then comes this very interesting word. Yatarham upayunjitaha. Yatarham is very subjective. It means as according to suitability. That's how it's translated. So what's suitable for one person may not be suitable for another person. For example, what's suitable for a sannyasi may not be what's suitable for grahastha or vice versa. I'm still like in this space. This past weekend, a group of us were in Gita Nagari. And there's a lot of effort in America today, in ISKCON today, in the West, America, US, Canada, to reach other populations besides the category of people that are seated in this room. You know, the Indian descent people that are, I mean, even if you're born in America, the culture is still very much of Indian descent. You know, at least I was told this neighborhood is Prabhupada Village. It's 90% Indian, and Prem Kishore said 99% Indian. So there's another big part of the population in New Jersey besides the non-resident Indians and their children. So how to reach them is sometimes a bit of a challenge, isn't it? And how to speak of how to keep them coming, because we want them to feel there's a place for them. Anyway, we had this nice event where it was 100 people. There were 85% from that category, the not Indian or non-resident Indian groups of people. And so one of the items in the schedule was meet a monk, because we don't say sannyasi to Western people, or at least sometimes we don't. And so it was very interesting. They wanted to know what's the lifestyle of a monk, and all kinds of nice things. So the lifestyle of a monk is not the same as those people. So I had to say it like 6 times or so. You know, what my lifestyle is not like we're trying to get people to sign up at the end of this weekend to join the monk ashram. That's not the plan. But there are principles, and that's this yartarham according to suitability. And then amongst grahastas, there may be one suitability for one and what's suitable for another. And what's suitable? How do you determine what's suitable for you? How do you determine what your needs are, and what's more than what your needs are? How do you determine that? Well, we have a computer screen over here. Those of you that are down in the hall, if you come out over here from behind, you'll be able to see the screen. If you don't want to see the screen, it's quite okay. You can sit out in the hall. But we do invite you to come in. And it's a big, giant screen, too. Okay. Now we're getting some newer people. I can see. Okay. Can you see? Not yet. Now you can see. Almost. Okay. Amongst grahastas, so here's two extremes. Not necessarily. Ambarish Prabhu, Prabhupada's disciple, Ambarish, he has wealth that most people don't have. And he doesn't live extravagantly. I've been to his home in Alachua, and it's a nice home, but it's not an extravagant home. And when his mother died, he inherited her summer home, because this summer in Florida gets pretty hot. So he spends his summers in Maine, where his mother's summer home was. But otherwise, he lives reasonably simply, and he's using his wealth, whatever he can use his wealth for, in service to Krishna. And that's the good use of his wealth. And then there's, ranges of people that don't have the kind of wealth that he has, but they have, enough. And then there's people that could have more, but they choose to live very simply. And I'll mention by name because I know they wouldn't mind. For a number of years, Prithu Shrava, Prabhupada disciple, Prithu Shrava, was the president of the Chicago Temple. In fact, I knew him from days when we did college preaching together. So one time I went to visit him, and we went to visit colleges all around Chicago. We went 2 weeks in the north and 2 weeks in the south, and it was, a really nice time. That's how I started visiting Chicago. And his wife, her name is Donna Kelly, and she was a college student at Champaign-Urbana, good school. And she met Ganapati Maharaj, became a devotee very quickly, and then became married to Prithu. So they're this nice couple. And they had an apartment down the street from the temple. So one time they invited me for lunch at their apartment. And I was a little surprised, not really surprised, but a little surprised. They didn't have any furniture in their house. And it was a rented place. They didn't own it. It's just a rented place. And when I had to use the bathroom, I went past a place that was their closet. And I saw what was in their closet, because there wasn't a door on the closet. And there was like 3 hangers, and that was on his side, and 3 hangers, and that was on her side. And that was their clothing. And then, I was like, wow. They're very Spartan-like in what they have. One summer, I'm pretty sure they would not mind me speaking like this. Prithu, after they left that service of being the president, they got in a van. And that was their home, was living in a van. A married couple living in a van. They didn't travel by van and get a motel room. They lived in their van. And they did what, the brahmacharis do, the bucket showers in the morning. And, they were happy with that. There wasn't like artificial austerity. They liked it. So one summer, Prithu Shrava wanted to go with Ganapati Maharaj and be his partner when he was distributing books at the Grand Canyon. So it was good for two. Spot was good for two. So Donna Kelly stayed at the temple for a month while her husband was traveling with Gandapati Maharaj and book distribution in Grand Canyon. And I came towards the very end of their stay, and it was time for her to go to meet up with her husband because he was now back. And when she walked out, she had a bag that was like this big, little, like a 1/4 size duffel bag. And I said, would you like me to help you carry the luggage down? She just showed me and said, this is it. This is what I came with. That's unusual. Minimalist. And she was quite happy. It wasn't artificial. So if one can reduce, and this is yatarham, according to suitability. What's suitable for one may not be suitable for another. That's why I said it's subjective. But the principle is that you need it. And whatever you need in order to be happy or content or peaceful, then you do that. Don't go too much this way and don't go too much that way. Overaccumulation of material stuff. So think once, twice, thrice about purchasing things. Do you really need it? Do you really need it? And the third time, if you really need it, then get one. And take care of it because it's meant for Krishna's service. You get one that's useful and durable and all those good things. And be very careful because it's Krishna's property. And think once, twice, thrice before you get another one. And think of things that you have. How many pair of shoes and things. So I'm not shaking fingers. I'm just speaking about a principle that Rupa Goswami teaches, that atyahara is detrimental for bhakti. Or he says it's stronger. It destroys bhakti. So in addition to, now this is from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in addition to stuff, there's eating. You can see that little diagram on the left side as a man that's stuffing himself. So we don't overeat. So that's another, according to suitability. Bhima, his Vikradar, he needed a lot. And somebody else may need a little. And I just met a nice couple when I first came to New Jersey. There was a young American couple, newly married couple, or soon to be married couple, I guess. And one of the topics, because they're just becoming grahastas, like how much do we need? And she's feeling from her social relations, I guess her parents and other people she was associating with before, that she should have more stuff. She shouldn't live so simply. She said, I feel uncomfortable. I'm happy with simple. So what do I do? Because I don't want to disturb other people, but I'm actually happy being, with less. So that's fantastic. As long as it's not artificial, and if it goes this way, you try to reduce. If it goes that way, you accept what's necessary. Don't be artificial. That's this yatarham upayunjitaha. But the preamble is without attachment to sense gratification. And either way, sense gratification or sense abnegation, don't go either way. And always try to reduce. But to try to reduce, it should be resting upon the principle of always increasing bhakti. It's just like how we observe austerities in Gaudiya Vaishnavism or in ISKCON. How do we observe austerities? Let's just say Ekadasi's days or appearance days of our acharyas or something. What you do on Gaur Purnima day when it's common that we fast. Or since the Ekadasi is a little bit more neutral. On Ekadasi, it's an auspicious day. Coming up, it's Akshayi Tritiya, right? May 3rd. So when these are auspicious days, then it's good to do something that's auspicious on auspicious days. So we try to increase the spiritual and to diminish or reduce the material, but not too much, not too little, but according to suitability. Something that's a little bit of a stretch, a little bit, not like it hurts, but a little austerity. It's good, and then maintain it, and maintain it, and maintain it. Maintain it with the purpose of making your spiritual connection stronger. That's the most important part, making your spiritual connection stronger, because it's auspicious. And on those auspicious days, it's part of Vedic culture. Not part of Western culture, it's part of Vedic culture to observe some austerities for a higher purpose, not austerities for austerity's sake, but in principle. So reduce your eating and increase your hearing and chanting and other forms of devotional expression on auspicious days. That's the tapa. It's a very practical exercise of tapa for the purpose of making spiritual advancement in bhakti life. And then the third category, it's like too much information or data, overaccumulation of information. And this is, the information age. And it's really easy to do it. It's really easy to get lost in your handheld device, and or two or three. I say two or three because when I travel, I'm astonished at how people do this. They're on the plane. There isn't even any Wi-Fi other than watching movies. And because on planes you can generally do that. They have some little system in their own internal system. But people have two things going at the same time. Sometimes one in one hand and the other in the other hand, or they go back and forth between one hand and the other hand. They're just absorbed in those little devices. I often travel, this is anecdotal, just to illustrate the point. I often travel with Southwest Airlines for a couple of reasons. Now all the airlines, if you change your flights, there's not a penalty. You just have to, you can use the money for another flight. But that before Southwest was one of the few airlines that had that policy. And their fares were less. And then you choose your own seating. So they have an A-list system, so I fly enough that I'm on the A-list, so I get to board first. So when I board first, I get to sit where I want. So I like an aisle seat. And I have found, if you want to have an aisle seat, travel with Southwest Airlines and wear a dhoti like this. And then you don't have people sitting next to you. There's not a rule, but I've kind of noticed that that's kind of what happens. And one time I was traveling when both seats were occupied. There are two people that didn't know each other. And for like an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours, they were talking about the latest devices that they had just purchased and what did one do and what does the other one do. And, oh, I got to get one of those too. And it was like the whole almost 2 hours of just talking about their handheld devices and what the latest is. So that's, this information overaccumulation. And, advances of technology and things, and bells and whistles and things that make it nice. Or, draw your attention. So the advice of this, the first of the six, is atyahara, to minimize this tendency to accumulate. Accept what's necessary, but not more than what's necessary. And it's subjective. And if you're not attentive, it's going to tilt in the direction of more than necessary. If you're trying to go the other direction, you may find yourself trying to do something less than what you actually need. And so beware of either extreme. But likely, if there's going to be error, it's going to be in the side of too much, not too little, of stuff and eating. Prabhupada's statement about eating, if there's a question of eating too much or too little, better eat too little. And information, what you need, and not too much, because you can get buried in information. Okay, so that's the atyahara. And we all now know what the next one is, right? Prayasa. Prayasa means over-endeavoring. Over-endeavoring specifically for something material. Even for something spiritual, Prabhupada warned us, don't over-endeavor. But what's the over-endeavor? Because, for example, Srila Prabhupada made great endeavor to build the Juhu temple, and he engaged devotees in certain places. I was in New York, we were one of them. I didn't know how much money we sent until I read Giriraj Maharaj's book, but I remember raising the money. It was $100,000, and at that time that was a lot of money. And there are book distributors and Sankirtan devotees under the guidance of our GBC. We sent $100,000, and it helped. But Prabhupada wanted that temple built, and similarly, he wanted the Vrindavan temple built. Now he left it behind, so there's now this wonderful Vrindavan temple and more. Since that Vrindavan temple was built, more things have been built. But to do that, it's some endeavor. That's okay. For spiritual things, we endeavor. And it was intense. I was with Guru Kripa once, and he was describing to me what it was like when Prabhupada was residing at the Vrindavan temple in his quarters. The quarters weren't finished, but that was finished before everything else. And above Prabhupada was these guest houses. Prabhupada had 300 workers in shifts, 3 shifts, and it was 24 hours. They asked, there was a lot of noise when they're doing construction, bang, 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 And at night, they asked Prabhupada, would you like us to have the workers stop so you can rest at night? And Prabhupada said, that's kirtan. Bang, 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 bang. So he was making a strong endeavor because his life was short, or the remainder of his life was unknown. And he had, as he had said many times, I've already received notice. So he was making sure that these projects he wanted. So it was this pretty intense endeavor. But for a spiritual purpose. And he knew where the breaking point was. Of course, there's other examples. The printing of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that marathon thing, that's a wonderful story. Prabhupada pushed in certain areas, and in general he encouraged us to not be lazy. But over-endeavoring means that your core sadhana takes a hit. And when your core sadhana gets diminished, then your spiritual strength gets diminished, and your capacity to resist the lure of the material energy becomes slackened. So we don't want that. That's over-endeavoring. But especially for material things. No, the recommendation that Prabhupada would give generally was like this. We make a sincere effort, and that's it. We leave the result up to Krishna. We make a sincere effort and leave the result up to Krishna. Just this morning, hearing Prabhupada speak, a recorded lecture, of course, on it was an initiation lecture in Los Angeles in 1968. And Prabhupada was saying, I'm very old. I don't know how long I'll live. Again, notice has already been given. But you're young, and you should take this message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and distribute it broadly. Then he said, don't think because you're not so qualified, you're looking to me as your leader, and Swamiji should travel and preach. But I'm saying to you, you're young, you have energy, and you, to your capacity. And even if it's not successful, it's successful. Because you're endeavoring. So there's a lot of people assembled here. This nice big space that you constructed from whatever the other space looked like, who knows? But it didn't look like this. This is really big. Compliments to your design for this nice big space. Compliments, again, nice big space. Look at that lady of the house really likes the size of her kitchen. Like, look at the size of the kitchen. And you couldn't have so many people in an apartment. In that, whatever the house was before, you're not going to get this many people in your, this is like a temple room with a kitchen in it. So, we accept things that are useful in Krishna's service. We make a reasonable effort, sincere effort. We are not lazy. We make sincere effort. And the result comes or doesn't come. If the result doesn't come, it doesn't come. But the endeavor to please Krishna, that's the success. That's what Prabhupada was saying at this initiation lecture. Even you may feel, those persons in this room, you may not feel so qualified. That's a good feeling. If you felt you were qualified, you'd have a problem. If you're feeling not so qualified, that's a good quality. And now what are we to do? We're to make our effort as best we can, and et cetera, et cetera. We receive Krishna Bhakti, and we give Krishna Bhakti, and that's our life. And then there's the holistic picture of what receiving Krishna Bhakti and giving Krishna Bhakti looks like. And we do that together. And that's the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we make some reasonable endeavor for our spiritual purposes, and for material purposes, we don't over endeavor. Something that's needed, that's fine. And whatever comes, that's fine. Just a little sharing. Again, because of this past weekend in Gita Nagari, there was some sharing amongst the people that attended, that they also, not just non-resident Indian second generation kids, feel pressure from their parents to achieve. Open your ears and you'll hear it. There's lots of pressure from young non-resident Indian children that have a lot of pressure to achieve, to excel, to well, and da. So, but others feel it too. There's a lot of, there's social pressure. Now, some of it's self-imposed, some of it's peer-imposed, some of it's society-imposed, some of it's family-imposed, but there's pressure to, excel, not just do well, but to excel. And that sometimes it's very inhibiting, debilitating. So, this is an advice given by Rupa Goswami per the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prayasa, some endeavor, yes, and not over endeavor. And then there's mundane speech, prajalpa. It's a nice illustration, isn't it? Mundane speech, specifically mundane speech. So speech that elevates, that's good. Speech that doesn't elevate, that's not good. And that's to be, it has the potency of destroying bhakti, or making bhakti more difficult if we can't control. So notice there's the eating, and there's the vibrating. So controlling the tongue is very important in our bhakti life. So mundane speech, do without it or minimize it. So that's 3. We have 3 more. Niyama agraha, or niyama agraha. So there's 2. Leading a mechanical life. This is a nice way for people that aren't yet experienced in the bhakti life, bhakti language, leading a mechanical life, doing things without knowing the reason why. Doing things without knowing the reason why. So it's good to know why. Something that I appreciated from my early days in beginning to read Prabhupada's books, he knew his audience, and the audience that he was addressing was trained up to ask why questions. Younger generation people will always ask you. And if you don't have the answer to the why questions, they may not dismiss you, but you get dismissed. Why? So knowing that audience, Prabhupada supplied the answers to the why questions. And it made those of us that have that kind of tendency and training and upbringing to feel satisfied. That there's a science, he would say it over and over, it's a science. So if we don't know why, but we do something, then that can be detrimental to bhakti. So it's good to know why. It's good to ask why. Not in a challenging way, but it's good to know why. And then once you know why, this is the next trick, is being present. Mindfulness message. Being present with the why you're doing what you're doing. Here's a training that I got as a new brahmachari. This came from Vishnu Jan Swami. That he trained the devotees under his care and kind of spread around ISKCON because it was good training. When you get up in the morning, ask yourself, why am I getting up so early? And you're going to take your bath, and you ask, why am I taking my bath so early in the morning? And you put on your dhoti, and you ask, why am I putting on my dhoti? And you put on your tilak, why am I putting it? So there's mindfulness built into each of the activities, and so with the understanding of why. The answer is a devotional answer, and it can be as simple as, because this is how Prabhupada trained us, so to help us remember Krishna. And that's a very simple why. But that you do it mindfully, or with the understanding of why. Niyama, agraha. And then there's the other, niyama agraha. You reject that which is to be done whimsically. Neglecting rules, niyamas, that's niyamas, things that you're supposed to do. And rejecting them or doing them mindlessly. Either way, it's detrimental to bhakti. So mindfulness is beneficial. Asking why questions, not in a challenging spirit, but wanting to know why. Does anybody in the room know this question was asked of me? And the person who asked it wanted to ask it like 6 times. And I didn't have the answer for sure. I heard something when I was a new devotee, but I didn't know exactly why. When we chant japa, we have this finger sticking out of our bead bag. What's the reason why? You have the answer?
This finger is mostly used when two people are giving their point.
Yes, that's what I said. I said this is like the accusing finger or the cursing finger, and so we don't hold it. But then okay, there. Look at this. Does anybody have another explanation? Maybe our pujari will know. The one that does all the yajnas. I meant to ask this. So, but that's a detail. There are other why things that we do that we don't reject things whimsically. And we don't accept things blindly. There are niyamas that we're attentive to, but we should be, purposeful behind the things that we do. The vidhis and the niyamas, the do's and the don'ts. Okay, we're 2/3 done. Jana Sangha. Jana Sangha indicates materialistic association. That's how it's translated. And there we see this nice young couple. And from that, Stri Sangha comes other things that accumulate because of materialistic association. But the purpose behind association should be, as far as possible, the spiritual direction. And it's sometimes challenging to spiritualize association. Sometimes, family members that aren't so spiritually inclined, or relatives that aren't so spiritually inclined, etc. Met a couple the other day that was just something they were struggling with. So we may, just like, I travel. Every now and then I travel. And when I travel, it's like many of you have jobs. And when you travel or you have jobs, or you go to the marketplace to purchase things, you're associating with people that aren't devotees. So is that contamination? In his Bhakti Loka is a book written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur to describe the 6 principles that are favorable and the 6 principles that are destructive to bhakti. And he's very specific about the renounced order. These principles apply. For grihastas, those principles apply, or this is how you apply this principle. So it's very nice, very valuable. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writings are particularly valuable in many ways, but one of those many ways is he's very clear in giving instructions appropriate for householders. Having been a householder, he certainly knew what the necessity of a householder for being in the workplace and not being, disrespectful to other people or looked upon as, is there something wrong with you? So how do you do that? How do you navigate that territory? So one of the teachings that Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives is there's cordiality, standard cordiality that you express towards people in the workplace, or the kids at school, their friends at school. How do you deal with that? I mean, we're not kids in school, most of us in this room, but some of us in the room are kids in school. How do you deal with association where there's things that kids do and say and et cetera, that's unwholesome? No, how to navigate that territory. It goes on. As parents, you probably hear it. I'm not a parent, but I hear it from kids that share it. It's a challenge. And sometimes their wholesomeness gets corrupted by unwholesomeness through not knowing how to navigate that territory. So the principle that Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes is when cordiality should be there. Hello, how are you? How's your family? How's your health? Did you like the snowfall yesterday? And, whatever, just, common courtesy things without investing so much in the meaningfulness of those things, just maintaining cordiality in an external way. And the close association that you may want to have, you reserve that for the close association with wholesome individuals or devotees, those that are directed not towards materialistic goals of life. Make that your core association. And that's the best protection from this materialistic association. And then finally is greed. Laulyam. Now, spiritual greed is good. It's one of the things that Rupa Goswami writes, same word, saying this is, if you want to go into higher stages of bhakti, this is it, be greedy. But be greedy for spiritual advancement and attaining the association of Krishna. But greed for material things, this is detrimental. And it's very problematic because the world around us is exploiting nature and others, etc., 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 and driven by greed. Enough is not enough. It's got to be more than. So there's a correlation between the satyahara and greed, but it's not exactly the same. So this is a nice way to take the teachings of Rupa Goswami and make them accessible to people that are a little newer. And it can be a little challenging to take something that's very elevated to make it easily accessible to people that are newer. But it's doable. I'm going to share one other thing and then see if there's some discussion. So many of you know I've been visiting China for over a decade. And something that I learned from visiting China is not only the Chinese government, but also the Chinese people. It makes it easier for them to accept bhakti life if it has characteristics that resemble their culture. And this is important for something, how we relate to the Western or other than non-resident Indian population. It's something that relates. So the GBC and the other leaders that aren't GBC, but leaders in China, they have this little acronym, Krishna consciousness with Chinese characteristics, KCCC. KCCC. So, for example, somebody that I detected there's need for the devotees in China to read Prabhupada's books. So this nice devotee that had learned English when she was in school as a young girl, didn't really speak it. If you don't use something, you don't maintain it. But she had some ABC understanding of English. She went to Vrindavan and studied at the VIHE, Bhakti Shastri, with, English as her second language, in English. And, very determined, et cetera, et cetera. So she learned. And she was told by the instructors that when you go back to your country, because large number of students in the VIHE are from Russia, so, you go back and teach it according to your culture. So she took it back, and with other people, she had to rewrite the Bhakti Shastri curricula with Chinese characteristics. So Bhakti Shastri with Chinese characteristics. Because that made it acceptable. And I don't know exactly what that means because I'm not Chinese. But they spent a lot of time with persons that knew a fair amount about both education and Chinese culture to make the curriculum Bhakti Shastri with Chinese characteristics. And that's what they're teaching. And it's very successful. So I'm making a similar experiment. I'm just sharing because it's part of what we're trying to do is extend Krishna consciousness to persons beyond the room here. There's a big room. Great room, great space. Well done. Beyond the non-resident Indian population. So we have to be thoughtful. So, some time ago, some of you may know, and this is going to be the topic I'm going to speak about on Sunday evening, Gita values. Have any of you heard that term before? Devaki, you heard that term? Gita values. Some devotees some years ago, headed by Shonaka Rishi, developed relationships with people, the professors at Oxford University in the religion department. And, fast forward in time, there's now a fully accredited Vaishnava Studies 4-year degree in Oxford University. And now there's a number of devotees, ISKCON devotees, who have gotten their PhDs in religious studies at Oxford University. And now they're teaching it. There's a number that have had achieved that good fortune. So those devotees at Oxford University that have this understanding got together with a few of the people like me that, reached other people besides Oxford University, ivory tower people, and how to take the message of Bhagavad Gita and make it accessible to people that aren't Oxford University students. So they came up with this model, and they worked on it. Shesha was involved, Rajabihari was involved, etc. They call it Gita values. They took 6, wrote a little paragraph, refined it many, many times, and now they have Gita values 6 in number. Of course, there's more than 6, and then little paragraph, and that's Gita values. So I'm going to be teaching Gita values to the Chinese devotees to help them understand how to take the teachings and present them to the Chinese people so it makes sense. So listen, next week, Monday, not this coming Monday, but the following week is the first of the Gita values, and it has several parts. It's, you have to be very thoughtful. My point, the overall point is this: be thoughtful about your audience and make it relatable to your audience, so it matches something that they relate to. That's the key. So I'm going to explain the concept, and then there's a female voice. She's going to read the Chinese translation of the Gita values number 1. She is going to then take 3, 4, 5 minutes and say, in the history of China, there's this personality and that celebrity and that author and this VIP that exemplify this value in Chinese culture. Then the next is going to be a very scholarly devotee that's going to expand on that. In the history of China's history, this is a value that's found by the name. This is found in Chinese culture. So they're like, I can relate to this. And then I'm going to speak what's in Bhagavad Gita in its simple terms. So then the purpose of the whole exercise is to help them understand, because there's 6 Gita values, that you can assimilate the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and teach it to the people in China in a way that is more relatable than you're just teaching Bhagavad Gita, and you're not trying to connect with their culture. We'll do it 6 times, so that then they'll have at least one model that they can replicate in their own way, and then they'll also understand a principle that they can expand in their own way. And that's, here we may say Western outreach, and there it's like reaching the mainland Chinese people with the message of the Vedas, to make it relatable. I hope you understand what I just did, or tried to do. And it's important for us. It's important for us. Because where are we? And why anyway. A or B? Srila Prabhupada came to America to create temples for the non-resident Indian population in America. Or B? Srila Prabhupada came to America to give the English-speaking parts of the world the opportunity to take advantage of the ancient wisdom that comes from India and live their lives in devotion to Krishna. So we're doing okay with A and not doing so well for B, and we have to be thoughtful about how to make it more successful. And who's going to do it? It's going to be the people in the room. or it's going to be people, largely, it's going to be people from the Indian background to teach the message of Krishna consciousness in the West to all the other people that aren't in the room. And if we don't do it, who's going to do it? So please do it. And think of ways that you can do it in ways that are relatable. And that's one of the reasons I found this past weekend to be really fantastic. 100 people. They paid $170 to go to Gita Nagari for a weekend, and they didn't even know what Gita Nagari was. And now there's someone, anyway, it's possible. You have to be a little creative. You don't have to have this model or that model. You don't have to have a farm. Having a farm is nice, but you have to be creative. Okay. So I'm down off my soapbox. And we're back to, here's our topic. Whoops. 6 habits that destroy your peace and sanity. See if there's some discussion. Rupa Goswami. You're going to sit there, or are you going to take the microphone?
No, Marge. This needs someone taking
You're mumbling. I can't follow what you're saying. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I'll try to be very clear.
Okay, good. I like that.
So we understand the principles, the 6 habits, and
Yes.
everything. I have personally noticed that for not being ambitious, we are being judged. Like,
If you're not ambitious, you're judged.
yeah. And if you wear such clothings or if you follow some practices, you don't fit in the room of your family and relations. So they judge you directly. And that's a direct attack, regardless of your corporate or outside world
Okay.
associations.
So now what to do?
Yes, it's very uncomfortable to live like this.
Oh, you smile.
Smile.
Smile on the inside, and then you can smile on the outside. If you're not smiling on the inside, then you're not going to be able to smile on the outside. Because you're wanting acceptance from people who are not accepting, then you're going to be disappointed. So, I recall you asked, did you in the past ask a question like this? Along this line sometime during a previous visit?
Yes.
This is something that you have to deal with. It's not
Yes.
easy.
Yes.
Well, as you would like them to be accepting of you, you can try to be accepting of them. And accepting of them, the persons that judge you, that's who they are and that's how they are. And you just smile because that's who they are. It's accepting. But if you want their acceptance, that may not be realistic. Because it sounds like it's continuing.
No, I have given up for
Okay.
acceptance. Yes, I've given up on that.
Okay, so then, just smile. On the inside. And then you can smile on the outside. And they can think whatever they're going to think. There's something, you're goofy, or something's wrong with you, you've been brainwashed, or whatever, they may think. You got bad association, let's fix that. Let's give you some materialistic association, then you get normal again, or whatever it is. And you just smile. And just keep being who you are. And, obviously, not only emotionally there'll be some detachment, but maybe, some physical detachment in addition to emotional detachment. Not for spite, but just, because it's, why disturb other family members or other whoever have just casting expectations on you that don't match who you are. why put them through that? Why put yourself through that? Just show some physical distance. And, it may not be lovely, but it may be wise. Doesn't make it easy, but, it may be wise. Just inwardly cultivate Krishna bhakti. Don't put it in their face, these other people, but you inwardly cultivate it. And you're not alone. Misery loves company. So let me just give you a little company.
Yes.
It's a very common phenomena in China that the devotee population in China is something like 90% ladies. And of those 90% ladies, not all of them are married. And so there's a number of ladies, devotees in China that just don't have a husband. And then those that have husbands, 99% are not devotee husbands. And it's that pervasive. So that's a problem, because they want to be devotees and their husbands don't want to be devotees. And some of them, then there's the range. They're okay because they're a good wife. But then, they have their other desires because they're not devotees, and that makes a compromise for the wife and then for the children. And, it gets complicated. Misery loves company. But it's not just, what to speak of, the culture, the country, I should say. The culture is conducive, but the government is not. And they have to live with it.
Guru Maharaj, we have also seen that generally speaking, we get this tendency to compare. Compare.
Yes.
And with that tendency, it becomes a little more...
That's unwholesome. Don't do it.
Yes. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't compare.
But you constantly are around such people.
Okay. Don't whine and complain. Just don't do it.
Okay.
Just don't do it, because it's unwholesome. Look, there are things in your life I'm sure you don't do because it's unwholesome. I can mention a few, but alcohol and meat. It's just, no thank you. So this comparing it's subtle, but it's also very toxic. So don't do it. Very simple. Very simple. Although the culture is around you. For fun, Los Angeles, 1968, Prabhupada giving a lecture this morning, the recording. Halfway through the lecture, you could hear it's not out here in the suburbs of New Jersey, but anyway, it's this little musical sounds, and you could hear it. It got louder and louder, and then Prabhupada paused and said, "What's that?" And someone said, "Ice cream." And Prabhupada laughed. Said, "Ice cream? Oh, so they're promoting." And then he said, "Don't get ice cream." He said, "This is Maya. Come on and enjoy me. Come on and enjoy me. This is Maya. This is Maya's program." So we just because you hear that promotion or the advertising, the canvassing for come enjoy this, and because it may be prevalent around you that people are comparing, you just don't do it because it's toxic. It's unwholesome. Just don't do it. You can discriminate. You can see this is this and that's that, and that's fine. But you don't compare and judge, because that's judgmentalism. We discussed this a bit. Just don't go there. And keep the association of those who don't go there. They can see what's what, and but they don't go there in judgmentalism. and comparing. It has everything to do with materialistic civilization. Okay. Others would like to contribute something? You may have to come forward because I don't know how
forward.
the cable is not long enough. Okay, you got it. Take it away.
Thank you. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. My question is, I guess, relating more so to like the whole, expanding the Bhakti movement and expanding it outside the NRI community. I think my question is, as we do our best effort to expand the movement in which is suitable to each of us as individuals, how do we ensure that people who are experienced in the Bhakti movement and also those who aren't, who are probably more new, how do we ensure that we are all loved and cared for?
Well, ensuring is a big word. You can promote it, but ensure it. Like somebody asked me, how can I be sure if I marry this girl, it's going to turn out okay? I said, there's no assurance that it's going to turn out okay. You can take this and that, but there's no. So if you want to say, how do we move things in the direction of?
Yeah.
That's okay. It's one of the best ways is the golden rule. Everybody knows the golden rule, right? Anybody here not know the golden rule? The golden rule is like a kind of a Christian term, but it means you do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's the golden rule. There's a website, you can check it out. All cultures, even atheistic cultures, what to speak of theistic cultures and religions, have the golden rule because it's a universal rule. It's expressed in different ways, in different cultures, in different scriptures. But if Gandhi said it, you act in such a way, this is how you'd like the world to be. And that's the best way to move things in that direction. You be respectful, and you be accepting of others that aren't doing what you're doing. The diversity principle, you live by it, and you respect people that are different than you, including those that are, making judgments that you're not doing the right thing. You smile. You're accepting. That's just the way they are. And you continue with a smile. Being that which purposefully is trying to reach people in a meaningful way. It's subtle, but it's worth mentioning. Bhaktisiddhanta's style and Bhaktivinoda Thakur's style were very different. In a capsule, Bhaktivinoda's style was humble persuasion, and Bhaktisiddhanta's style was confrontation. Very different style. And how much regard did Bhaktisiddhanta have for his father? He viewed him as a Mahabhagavata. And they differed. And he would sometimes express it. Why do you entertain these people? But he had unlimited, no limit to his regard for Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and rightly so. But their style was different. There's some particular examples, but without. So, others that don't hold this view as being important, and the particular approach.
Make an entrance with slip fast and enjoy all the things you...
There's the pitter-patter upstairs. Okay. But you get the idea. Okay. Yeah. Something over here?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I was wondering, to be able to preach to people relatably really takes a lot of realization on the preacher's part, and also takes a lot of purity. And I was wondering, Maharaj, does the purity build while you're preaching and serving in that way? Or do you have to be at a certain level of realization and purity before you even enter the battlefield?
Well, here's a statistic from Stilson Judah. Some of you weren't around when Stilson Judah was around, but he was a scholar, a sociology professor in Los Angeles, or the West Coast at least, during Prabhupada's time. And his specialty in sociology was the Hare Krishna movement. And so he did a lot of interviews with Hare Krishna devotees. And one of his findings was how those who are full-on Hare Krishna practitioners, how they get started. And it wasn't through the association of Hare Krishna devotees. It was through the association of those who were kind of hanging around the Hare Krishna devotees. And we had a term for that. It wasn't very nice. It was called fringies. It was either you're in or you're out. And if you're out, you're, but like favorable, you're fringy. It's like very condescending. I didn't like that term. But anyway, so he found that many people became devotees because they found out about Hare Krishna movement through somebody that wasn't a practitioner, but they just liked it. So is there a potency in people that aren't like exemplary practitioners to help people become devotees? Definitely. But they were friends of someone, and that's how they got a book, or how they got beads, or how they got connected. And once they were connected, off they go. So the answer is there's no light that goes on that says now you're ready. With just the sincere effort to want to share with people something that you appreciate. And just keep it at that. Don't try to take the profile of something that's above where you are. You are where you are, and you do that sincerely.
Maharaj, I had one more.
Okay.
I was in the first two principles of those that are detrimental to devotional service. One was atyahara, like over-accumulation, and then over-endeavoring. So for both of them, the benchmark was sort of your sadhana. Like how are those principles affecting your sadhana? And if your sadhana is going down, that means those things have to be corrected. So it was like, simply put, like, what does sadhana look like?
What does sadhana look like? Look in the mirror. What does sadhana look like? You're asking that for the benefit of the people who are newer here, or why are you asking that question?
For my benefit, too.
For your benefit, too. Well, what's sadhana look like? The principle of sadhana is an aspiration, a hankering, a yearning to be again connected with reality with a capital R, or being connected with our original consciousness, whatever you fill in the blank. A sincere desire to make that connection again. And that sadhana may look in a number of different ways depending upon you and your circumstance and the training that you've received, etc. So it can look different in different places, in different countries. That there's core elements, and according to one's individual and one's spiritual trajectory, it's going to look a little different. But the core resting point is wanting to make that connection with Krishna. That's what it looks like.
You said look in the mirror.
What?
You said look into the mirror. What does that
I mean,
mean?
she's a sadhaka.
Yeah.
Look at herself and she knows what sadhana looks like. In her case.
So then sadhana is also customized, right? Based
Yes.
on... Okay.
Yes. There's a young girl that's got her hand up in the air. Let's pass the microphone. Behind you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. You're a strong, clear speaker. That's really good.
Thank you. So the question I'm going to be asking is a little silly.
Silly.
Yeah.
You got everybody laughing even before you ask. Go ahead. You're laughing too.
Why does Guru Maharajas and Brahmacharis wear orange?
Why? It's a nice color. That's why.
I have one more.
Okay.
What?
Let me just make you laugh. I've had many times. I'm sitting in the airplane. There's a space in between because I'm riding in Southwest, and the lady is sitting there at the window seat, and she catches my eye and says, "I really like that color." So it's to attract ladies to like the color. Go ahead. That was a joke.
So my next question is, why does some Guru Maharajas and some Brahmacharis wear some garlands and some doesn't?
Well, I took this off because it was starting to cut my neck. But I accepted it because our host is very gracious, and it looked like it wasn't going to cut my neck. But I took it off because it started to get a little wilted from being around my neck, and it was hurting, so I took it off. So, different devotees, different Maharajas may not feel so comfortable. Some don't mind at all. This is me. It's a little bit of an austerity wearing a garland. I like other kinds of austerities, but I don't know about that one. That's not so yummy for me. But some people, it's okay. Prabhupada would have accept garlands, and he would keep them on. And, he did it for, my understanding is he did it because it was good for the devotees, not because he liked wearing garlands. But it was good for the devotees to see Prabhupada wearing a nice, colorful, beautiful garland. And that was what was in his heart. That's why he did what he did. He did things because it was good for the devotees. So, there can be different reasons. Okay. I think we have something online. Can we have the microphone up here?
They can speak.
Okay, Amritananda.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, we welcome and Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, the point which you make about the Chinese voting, the KCCC,
Yeah.
I can understand that because different folks shows for different folks. But then when it comes to giving a message of Mahaprabhu, the primary focus is we don't dilute it. So
The primary focus is what?
we don't dilute the message of making of people, but it is palatable to a group of people. So how do we maintain this integrity? I mean, the nectar should remain the same, the cups could differ in shape and size. So how do we make sure that we don't compromise what we are sharing? Because it's very easy to, maybe understand this thing better or, whatever.
Well, to be able to adjust to time, place, and circumstance requires some conviction in the principles, some familiarity with the principles, and not changing principles. So to adjust details without tampering with principles requires that there's clarity in what the principles are. And that takes some qualification. So not everyone can do that, or not everyone should do that, because you may start compromising principles instead of making details suitable. But one of the gifts of our founder Acharya is he knew how to do that. He came to the West, and he kept certain principles, and he adjusted some details. So your question is how to, and my answer is how to make this fit the audience, or suitable and acceptable, more acceptable for the audience without tampering with principles. You have to have a qualified person that understands principles and knows, and has, with that understanding, maintains principles without compromising the principles, adjusting details only. It takes some qualification. Here's a nice example that comes to mind hearing your question. Bhakti Tirtha Swami. Bhakti Tirtha Swami was really good at details, adjusting details. So one time when I visited in Gitanagari, he had nice overalls, with a strap over the shoulders, like, a farmer would wear overalls, but they were dyed saffron. And he went out into the field to encourage the devotees who were working in the field that just see, here's our Guru Maharaj, and he's got overalls, saffron, but he's going to get himself dirty with the rest of us. And then when he went to Africa, he wore the African outfit. He was very comfortable making himself suited for the people who he was leading or interacting with. They wanted to become a king. You know that story. They wanted to become a king. They put a crown on him, and he accepted, and then he disappeared because kings get killed in Africa. So he did stick around. Anyway, so you have to have some skill, some spiritual elevation, and some understanding. And otherwise, don't tamper. Okay, I'm going to end. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.